So this is a plugin. This project, in some ways, I realized last night I've been working on this project since I started at Perseus 10 years ago. When I got there, I realized that if you don't know sort of what you're doing, if you're an intermediate, if you've already survived Greek 110, Greek 120, there's a million things in the world you can do. Right? You can go to Perseus, you can use the TLG, you can use Dickens and classical commentaries. It's all out there. But if you're a base beginner, there's not much. Right, the most trafficked site, I think, for beginners is actually textkit.org, which gives us lovely PDF scans of beginning Greek textbooks. And we sort of ignore that, and I think that is symptomatic of something Greg said, that the glory isn't in teaching undergraduates. The glory isn't in teaching first-year undergraduates. And so that is something that I've really been trying to hit. And a little bit about where I teach. It's the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is an urban institution, part of the University of Missouri state system. The average age of our student is about 27. About half of them are transfers. Most of them have associate degrees when they come to us. They either had associate degrees or they have a lot of experience brewing coffee. They're living in, there's a bar area real close to us, and they go in the 10 bar and they make their coffee, and they come back. And then they come back to us, and I get them because they want to read the Bible, they want to read Homer, or they want to read Plato. Generally one of the three, not all three of them. But there are other weird ones that do. So what happens is then, we get students who, they're trying to finish, they're coming back trying to put a degree together in 4, 5, 6 semesters. We have enough people and enough, sorry, I'm standing away from it. We have enough people and enough, we get to offer Greek once every semester. We get to offer Greek 110, 120, 211, repeat. And so if they have to take speech 110 to finish their degree, they can't take Greek. And then we miss them, right? Then they go on, or they have to take physics. They have to take something else. So we end up not really being able to serve students who come to us that want to learn Greek. And then I think we have a similar pattern then also that many other universities have, that if we get a dabbler, they'll get one semester of Greek, and then they have to move on and do something else. So we get 25, 30 in Greek 110, 15-ish in Greek 120, 5 in Greek 211, and then I read with the handful of smart ones who are still wanting to go on and do it at the end on independent study basis. So what I am trying to do is come up with a hybrid learning system for teaching ancient Greek, which and by hybrid I mean that they're basically working online. They are getting help as they need it, from faculty and from peer mentors who are available kind of all over the scheduling map. So we meet, like our classes meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So we try to have availability at different times on a Monday and a Wednesday, on a Tuesday, Thursday, day and night, because lots of our students are commuters and they hop over to campus after working all day. So we're trying to have a place where they can do their work, and then as they need to, they can come in and have contact with faculty, ask questions, see what they need to do. And then as part of this, the idea is that we can offer all 3 classes concurrently every semester. That instead of me spending every August explaining the Greek alphabet, that I can start that every semester. Students can read online. If they need help with the Greek alphabet, then they can come see me and get that help, but I'm actually offering all 3 classes all at once. And that has the hopeful side effect of the fact that that 5-student class doesn't really make. I have to go beg my dean once a year I teach ancient world and film with 200 students, so please give me these 5. And and they do, and it's it all works out. But we all have. I think you're lucky if you don't have that issue. And so if I can combine that 25, that 12, and that 5, that's a class that makes. You don't have to apologize for teaching Greek. You can just teach Greek, which is sort of where I want to go. So what I have done, I started this kind of prototyping this when I was teaching Greek, the Jack Cambridge course, and then I got sick of doing stuff that I felt like I couldn't really put online because somebody else owned the copyright. So I started looking around at kind of the stuff that and I really didn't want to write in it. The last thing the world needs is another brand new first-year Greek textbook, at least in my humble opinion. So I went back to the stuff that was out there that could be redone, that I thought I could repurpose and mash up into this system. I like this John Wayne White's first Greek book, and I also like FAR. So I'll come back to FAR in a minute. But I decided to start with White, because it goes through the anabasis, it's Attic, and there's an argument, I think, for starting with Homer, but I chose this one. It's an 80-chapter textbook. that, it's pretty standard looking little textbook. And I've had it typed, I've got it online right now if you're going to pop it into daedalus.umkc.edu, first Greek book. You can see the first 50 chapters of this book. Mostly I'm able to use it as written. There are a couple of problems. One, the basic problem with using a textbook from 1897 is that it assumes that everybody's already studied Latin. So there are places where, so the explanation of cases consisted entirely of, the cases in Greek are just like in Latin except there's no ablative. So I expanded that. So I did that, so I added little things, but I've not done a lot of that. And then there's a lot of cross-referencing to Latin. This is just like in Latin. I've taken that out for the most part, just to simplify it. I had the text manually typed. My presentation format of choice is HTML with JavaScript. There's a lot of reasons involved basically being a single operator in a shop that, HTML will always just work, basically. And so that's why I do it. I don't have to deal with any system falling apart. I can throw it on a flash drive, stick it somewhere, and it works. I have a little bit of JavaScript for some of the drill and practice exercises that I'll show you, but basically it's HTML. It is optimized for mobile phones. Those of you who heard me talk at Tufts last August heard me go on this for a very long time. That my students live very much in a post-PC world. In part because we're a commuter institution and they can't afford computers. I firmly believe that anything that time we spend designing for fancy web browsers on full-size computers, we're ignoring all of our student audience, or we will be in a matter of years. Netbooks have disappeared in favor of iPads and tablets. I don't really see computers anymore. It's actually a huge problem for us because we're really dependent on Blackboard, and this system depends on Blackboard. Blackboard doesn't run on a tablet. So I'm really focused on everything I do also then being available in this form factor. So if you go to that web URL on your phone, it works, and it works by design. And what that mostly means is that books and large format things let us do grammatical tables that go all the way across, and I move them mostly down. But the primary target for where I'm seeing people using this book is this form factor, not this form factor. People see me using this form factor, and it confirms the fact that I'm old. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. I'm going to just put in where you get the three columns going across, and I just run them down so you can see them on the phone. And that's chapter 11 if you want to see it. At the bottom of every page, I have a drill and practice, a series of drill and practice. What I do is I use simple Perl scripts to extract from the vocabulary paradigms, from the vocabulary, the grammatical paradigms. Just question pools that you can then, you go up and, brisk, a live demo. So you can scroll down to the bottom, and then you get simple drill and practice for the things that came up in the vocabulary and in the grammar that you've seen about. Then the other piece that it has, and this is I think the harder part of doing this online, right? Anyone can drill and practice forms and vocabulary. The harder part is that at least the way that I always learned ancient Greek, I think many of us teach ancient Greek, is it's an apprenticeship model. Right? Your students come in, you read the sentence, you go around, you act as imposing as you can. If you ask them what's the gender number in case of that word, at least I remember that I went to the University of Chicago with Peter White, and I remember being just petrified that he was going to call on me and ask me, what's that verb? And that's, I think, how we do it. And then that's how you kind of go through that process of learning to piece together the fact that the word order isn't exactly how you know what words mean and their grammatical function. And so that communicating that online, I think, is the most difficult part of this process. So the way I've done it, one is in these multiple choice questions, you get kind of the old style, like what's the grammatical function of this word? And ask them to identify. It goes back to tree banking, what Perseus is doing with tree banking, but trying to make them do that at an earlier level, if that makes any sense. It has. If you go through I'll come back to that translation thing in a bit. If you go through the mobile device, it's 10 questions because I'm trying to facilitate mobile check-in behavior, right? You check Facebook, no one knew has done anything in Facebook, so you can pop in and do 10 quick questions in Greek. After you take the quiz, it gives you the option of wow, I missed a whole bunch, I better do that same question set again, or reloading another random pool and letting you try again if you have more time to go on in your review and practice. What it doesn't do yet is it doesn't keep track of what you've missed. Ideally, what it should be is a spaced repetition system that knows what you've passed, knows what you've mastered, knows what you've missed. And then presents that to you and kind of keeps you going through the process. Someday I'll be able to write that. In the meantime, what I've done is I've created downloadable flashcards for every single chapter, and they're just basic text files that you can download into something like Anki, which is I don't know if it's open source, but it's free, and it does that spaced repetition. So someone who really wants to study all of these things, to do this in a spaced repetition thing, can go into the flashcard area and get a loadable. You have to change the encoding to UTF-8, but that's then something that they can load into any flashcard program they want. And I have that for every vocabulary word, every grammatical paradigm in the whole textbook available to you. But I'd like to integrate that. I would like to integrate that into sort of the larger system where the JavaScript is keeping track of what you've passed, what you've done, and what you haven't done as you move on. So that's the system. I mean, and what I've shown so far, anyone can use. If you're interested in Greek, and you want to study Greek on your own, you can use this and go through and you make what you can out of it. But part of what we do is we give credit, like credential, or we all credential our students who come through. So that's where the hybrid system comes in. So this is the assigned. This textbook is assigned. They use it online. They come to those office hours as I've already discussed. And then I move them into the Blackboard system to complete a similar series of assessment exercises, just so there's something that I can grade that I know is in a secure environment that complies with FERPA. I thought about creating a login system, but I don't want to be the person who's responsible for maintaining FERPA-protected data. So I let Blackboard do that. It's just kind of the same as what I do with HTML in a solo shop, and I don't want to be the one who gets sued for having let somebody find out that someone got a B- in Greek when they were in college. So I was a chair for too long, and so I still recovered from all that. So what I have them do is I go in and I use those same pools that I use for the online textbook, and I create a Blackboard quiz that draws, it's 10 grammar, 10 vocabulary, 5 translation questions, and they come out of a random pool. And then I add 10, I fake spaced repetition by adding 10 chapters from everything that's come before. So they'll get vocabulary, and I kind of mix it up. Sometimes it's all older grammar, sometimes it's all older vocabulary. Sometimes I'll focus on just one chapter that I wanted to hit again. Then every 5th chapter they go in and I make them take a 50-question cumulative quiz. The quizzes are time limited, so you have to do this, you have to accomplish this in 20 minutes. The quizzes are all self-grading, all multiple choice. It's competence-based, which means that they can do it as many times as they want until they get the grade that they want. The quizzes, because I have this big random pool, if you choose to retake the quiz to try and improve your grade, it's not the same quiz. It's all randomized. You might surely look at some of the same questions, but it's all randomized. And it's randomized at 2 levels. The questions change, but then if you see a question and the answer is A the first time, the next time you see it, the answer might be C. So there is no real way of gaming it in the sense of, hey, this one's A, this one's C, this one's B. It always changes enough. And if they do it, it takes more time than it's worth. And honestly, I feel like even if they do it, the worst thing that's happened is that they've spent an hour talking about Greek, which is kind of what I wanted in the first place. So I'm actually happy with all of that. And then the time limit is there because they can't pause it and look it up, or they have to know it to be able to do it. So that's kind of how I'm doing the assessment. And then in this model, the translations, instead of being a single, what is this word in this sentence, I use a matching format. So you have to go through and match each of the words in the sentence with a description of its grammatical, what it is at some level. So it replicates that, scary teacher that at least I had asking you what the grammatical function of a sentence is. Let me see what my time is. Oh, sorry. Okay, 5 minutes. And so what you're trying to do is give immediate feedback and and kind of replicate that sense of having to know what every word is. And so what I'm finding happens is that I don't spend any time really talking about declensions anymore. I answer simple questions about it. When students come to see me, this is what they need help with. They need help with translation, they need help with understanding how the sentence goes together. And so that's really what we do most of our work on, is trying to figure that out. That the students come basically knowing their drill. We're not drilling in vocabulary, talking about them going over a vocabulary list in class. They've done that on their own. And so that time when they come in is used much more efficiently than it would be, that I feel like it was when I was in the classroom. Where a lot of this is coming from, I don't know if people have heard of this National Center for Academic Transformation. It's a big, you guys are doing it too, aren't you? I don't know, but my provost loves it, and what they're doing is, I'm basically they're doing this in math, except on a much bigger scale, just because it's math and not Greek. But where their students are doing online exercises, we have a big computer lab with math tutors available. You go in, you work on your homework, there's someone there to answer your questions. I think it's open 24 hours a day, so if you're studying at 2 in the morning, there should be somebody there. So there's some models behind this that I think have been working, at least have been working on our campus, and so students are sort of familiar with it. I've sort of hit this, that it's really student-driven, focused on the thing. So the kind of what's left of it is figuring out what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. This is semester 5 of doing it. So what I'm thinking as I've been working on it is that this has a couple of advantages in addition to the scheduling. One is that it lets you tailor to levels, right? I mean, A students are going to be A students, but when I switched to this format, what I found was that my BC students were able to get A's, and my students who were failing miserably were able to get C's. So I'm hoping that what I'm doing is I'm going to increase retention rates, I'm going to increase learning outcomes, and I'm not going to lose people because they're just frustrated by the alphabet and word order and case grammar, and they throw up their hands and they leave. So and that's a function of time. I just need I need more data to see kind of how that's going on. And then the other thing that I need to know is, can my students go on to anyone else's Greek class and actually survive, right? That after they've done this, can they then go into an environment where there's 10 people in a room reading a text and talk about it and really function in it? And again, that's a time sequence. As someone comes out on the other side of this, then to see where we are in terms of reading and transitioning them to a traditional grammar. Where I'm going from here for future work, with a big second O for no good reason, is to finish the book. I'm in chapter 50, it's 80. So my students are getting it I'm about a unit ahead of them as they're working through it. Fortunately, I'm through for what they have to do this semester, so I've got to tell August to get the next sequence going. I'm sure that the book, as I've done it, is full of errors. It's all first pass. All of those matching questions are first pass. I need to go back. I'm sure there's all sorts of things that I missed that I really need to look at. I need to do that online spaced repetition system. I talked about that. Really get that into the online thing, not send them off to Anki as much as I like Anki. I need to do FAR, because my goal is White in first year, FAR in third semester. So for 2 semesters in the White book, learning Attic Greek, and then you go back and you do FAR twice as fast to get through third semester. Audio, I would love to get this all recorded. Stan Lombardo has told me he'll read all those sample sentences and vocabulary words for me. But that, I need, that's money and time, both of which are scarce. But that would be I think the next huge thing, so if it was all read. If it could be a click on the button. So hopefully, knock on wood, I have a proposal out to an internal funding body in the University of Missouri system that would fund at least a start at that. Then the last thing, I need to now apologize for throwing out other people, for talking about the ways I want to take advantage of other people's work who are sitting in this room. But what I miss in those translations is that it's syntax, but it's not translation, right? That they still don't know how to construe a sentence. They know it's the subject, but they still might not know what the subject is. So what I wanted to, but I've struggled with machine actionable ways to teach and assess whether or not someone is translating a sentence correctly. And what I've come to, and I've been playing with, and I need to work on, is using this idea of sentence alignment in the way that the Alpheus project has set it up. If you've seen it, it's a system for creating interlinear. Basically, you can create your own interlinear text. You can enter, there's a text box where you can enter text A and text B, and it can be in any language that you can separate on spaces, right? And then you can line them up. You can say this word matches to this word matches to this word. And it's got cool displays for interlinear text, but what my interest is, as I've realized in the last few weeks, is it generates the XML for you that lets you match it up. And so I haven't yet, but I should be able to generate out of that XML machine actionable matching questions in the same format that I'm doing in the syntax. So you create this interlinear text, and then instead of saying, what's the grammatical function, you can say, what's the best translation of? And then they get a sentence, they say, so this translates as this, and then match them up. And then to integrate that into this spaced repetition system. So they might get a syntax sentence, they might get, so sometimes when that matching question comes up, it might be a syntax question, but it might be a translation question. And so when I get back, and one of the things I want to do is just go back to chapter 1 of White and take some of the very first ones and throw them into that alignment editor and see if I can generate those questions automatically out of that system. Then theoretically, I know that, again, this is taking credit for work that other people have not even done. But you guys have done a lot. There's lots of people who have had good success doing those alignments elsewhere. And so doing a write-up to say, once you've done that, once you're doing well enough with the pre-formed alignment, do your own alignment on something else and see where you get. And then the last thing is that people at Perseus and people who have collaborated with Perseus have spent a lot of time and effort creating these tree banks that give the syntactic relationships between all the words in a Greek text. And again, it seems like as you move to third, fourth semester reading real Greek as opposed to textbook Greek, you ought to be able to make those same sorts of exercises, those same sort of progressive exercises automatically out of the syntactic data that people have painstakingly and carefully and brilliantly created for us. To take advantage of the fact that it's all available under this Creative Commons license to move people into fourth semester and move them from there. So that's where I'm headed with it. It's taken me a year and a half to get here. It'll take me years to get further on. But that's where I am right now.